everyone, today I want to talk about the different realities that our children live in from us. And therefore, it's very hard for kids sometimes to understand us and for us to understand them because they're on an entirely different journey than we were as kids growing up. Now, I know first, certainly for me, and probably you, like most human beings, we had our own challenges as kids growing up. Life was tough. We had all sorts of interactions with people that weren't pleasant, and it was tough. Might have got physically bashed, beaten, and all sorts of abuse. But our kids in this day and age, besides having some of that as well, have got an extra added blessing and curse, so to speak, with the evolving technology. And that is that the technology, while on one hand it's a real blessing because just so many good things about it that are enhancing our lives, it's really changing the whole landscape of humanity on how we operate in the world. You know, 20, 30 years ago when I went to New York, I would never hire a car and drive around there. I was just too scared. I mean, the roads are so complicated, and I'm not like my brother or like my son that they're like they're like a human GPS. You know, they'll tell you exactly where to go and they've never even been in the place, look at the maps and find their way around. But today, yes, we do have a GPS. So for me, put the GPS in, I can drive in any part of the world fully, confidently and safely because the GPS has got my back covered. So that's just one of the blessings, I guess. But there's a lot of curses as well because these little wonderful machines are just bombarding us with this wonderful, amazing information. And it just changes you in every respect. And certainly so our kids. And therefore it creates sometimes a barrier between us and our kids because we forget that we live in a separate reality from the way our kids are growing up. And also, I don't experience this world unless it goes via my thinking. I take in sensory data via my ears, my nose, my eyes. I might taste something and I formulate something in my thought. And I experience the world via thought. In fact, you won't have any experience of the world if you don't take it in through your sensory data and you have some thinking about it. And your kids have got their own little glasses and viewers of the way they're taking in the world, and they're experiencing a completely different life again. And they're growing up completely differently in school with different experiences that you and I never had technologically as kids growing up. So life is drastically different for our kids today. It's so drastically different that it becomes very hard to predict the future. As educators, teachers and parents, we're doing our best to prepare our kids for the future, but the future is a really incomplete equation. Elon Musk said that in the future we're going to be on a universally based wage because the robots are going to come and take over. Now, we can argue and talk about that till the cows come home as to what extent artificial intelligence and robots are going to take over, but we can very clearly see with the advent of driverless cars and you know, programming your refrigerator and all these other crazy things that are coming into our lives, life is really drastically changing. So then, as educators and parents, what's the most important thing I can do to prepare my child for an uncertain future? That is as follows. Well, actually, let me back up before I tell you that. I want to tell you about a survey that I think it was the Johns Hopkins Institute did over 30 years on successful parents with their kids. And that is that they did this survey and they created a lot of data. And that data was collected and they couldn't put their finger on what was the common denominator with all of these parents with their successful kids. Finally, one of the team members actually cracked the code. It was one thing: connection. They had a good relationship with their kids. In other words, when I look at you, my child, I'm talking to my kid, I love that person for who they are, not for what they'll achieve, not for what they'll do for me, but unconditional love for who they are. When I can put my own version of what I want them to be and love them for who they are right now, regardless of whether they actually do listen to me or not, I'm in a deep connection with that child. And what happened with all those parents are they were very successful in their parenting with their kids growing up. So in uncertain times, the most important message I want to give to my kid, it doesn't mean that I don't put restrictions on them. It doesn't mean that I don't express certain things that I need to get done or that shouldn't be done in the house. But it's on a basis of unconditional regard that I believe in you, you are good enough, and you can rise to the challenges. That's the message that we want to give to our kids in order for them to turn around and see that, hey, I know that you're living a different life than me, but can we let each other into each other's lives to less judgmentally look at each other with love and understanding, and that way the gap between us will be bridged with an understanding and cooperation. Hope that helps. If you have any comments, let me know.